Hi, I'm Jake Theut. I teach design and history here at Detroit Mercy. I'm here to talk about a seminar course I'm running in winter 2024, once per week, and it's called Urban Typology. In this course, we'll be learning about building typology as a category of architectural historical research as it applies to the urban environment, in this case, Detroit. The first question is, what is typology? Typology, or type, is the concept for describing a group of objects that have the same shape or formal structure. These seemingly disparate water towers were all designed and erected separately, yet their juxtaposition, here using photography, allows us to draw certain conclusions about similarities and differences between them. While most building styles or functions appear as if they follow an agreed upon set of formal rules, typology gives us the opportunity to actually trace the modifications between buildings, how those buildings change over time, and to reevaluate how we think about the formal criteria with which we group buildings together in the first place. The real advantage and power of understanding the building typology of a place is that you start to come in contact with that place's identity from the ground up, from the physical makeup of where things started to where they are now. Typology attempts to catalog and preserve that spirit so that future building can respond meaningfully to existing, enduring forms which potentially contain layers of cultural and moral values of the people who live there. Typology, as a research methodology, has the unique characteristic of having data which is most useful as an abstract graphic. Because a thing's formal structure is by nature an abstraction, we'll have to be curious and critical about what features define a building's abstract type. Here, historic theaters have been drawn in plan view, figure ground format, highlighting the relationship between the stage and seating. Notice how doors, windows, and the seats themselves are omitted for clarity. Here, the artist has articulated this Polish resort typology strictly as a pitched form with black axial extensions, using axonometric orientation to do so. While this data is merely graphic, we can start to see just how persuasive good graphics can be. Again, the same artist, emphasizing the forms of decorative profiles and shutterboards. While each profile seems to interpret a unique design solution, we see a regular rhythm start to emerge when we overlay them. Our goal will be to showcase building typologies as something both beautiful and scientific, eventually culminating in a visually compelling exhibition and book. As such, this course will have roughly 5 parts. Part 1, Intro to Typology as a Research Tool. Part 2, Architectural History of Detroit. Part 3, which will comprise the bulk of the course, is the typological research and documentation that you will do. Part 4 is a typological design charrette. And part 5 is an exhibition plus a book. In part 1, we'll develop an understanding of typology as a category of architectural knowledge. We will look at how type has been used in architectural research, in theory, and in design from antiquity to today. Part 2 will be an architectural history of Detroit. This will be a basic history of Detroit to understand the physical development of programs and styles as responses to social and technological movements of the time. We're going to look at the reasons for post-World War II disinvestment and the physical devastation of Detroit vis-a-vis attempts to rebuild and move forward. This is big picture. Part 3 will comprise the bulk of the course. Each student will zoom in and select one building type in Detroit. This could be a corner store, worker housing, apartment complexes, gas stations, auto body shops. And the student will perform a typological documentation using academic and archival research, using site visits, using interviews, sketching, photography, graphics. The goal will be to discover your type's unique physical characteristics, cultural context, and role within the rise and fall of Detroit. Part 4 is a brief critical design charrette, utilizing typological data from your research. The purpose of this design study is to emphasize the persistence of your typology and its use outside of nostalgic homage. In this work, for instance, Aldo Rossi ascribes a city hall with the typological affect of a prison, and he hopes that the people working in the city hall will one day be part of a society that progresses past the need and therefore memory of the prison type altogether. Hence, this is critical, using the type to critique. Part 5 is an exhibition and a book. So far as we're doing something worthwhile and nuanced, it should also be worthwhile to share our efforts with the rest of the school. This will be more casual than maybe this photo suggests, but nevertheless, it will be thoughtfully curated to be interesting and informative. So, why Detroit? Detroit sits at a juncture of progress, and questions of the city's identity necessarily come to the fore. How do residents express their connection to Detroit? How can architecture preserve a place's unique character? Who are we building Detroit for? Detroit has suffered not only neglect but amputation of much of its material culture. Meanwhile, rapid construction of new forms threaten to supplant its values. Typological research offers a way to appreciate the shaping forces of Detroit's material past and suggests how future design can meaningfully relate to a continuity between then and now. The goal of this course will be to provide a history of Detroit told through the study of potentially neglected architectural types and to validate the existence of a significant cultural expression contained therein. This class is right for you if you are doing a thesis project on urban housing, maybe a particular neighborhood in Detroit, or any phenomenon that you've been studying that would otherwise benefit from a morphological deep dive of any one particular building type found here in Detroit. Likewise, if the history of Detroit or historical research in general is something that interests you, or if you're interested in advocating for this history as a designer headed off into the field, then this course will be a good fit for you. Thanks so much.